Frankenstein. It's a word/name that can be used to describe many tech stacks. Everyone starts off with great intention. Use an off-the-shelf theme. Customize it as little as possible. Use a couple of apps, but not too many. But also make it look on brand. Then optimize it for CRO. But somewhere along the line, things get messy. And now, if you throw in some AI-generated code, there's even more ways for you to stuff up a site. So today, we're talking about storefronts. And more importantly, what makes a good storefront? Where does AI fit in? Where do page builders fit in? Where do apps fit in? I'm joined by someone who can be called Shopify royalty, Anne Thomas from Design Packs. Not only does she run one of the cleanest, best apps for building out a great Shopify front end, she was one of the brains behind Flex Theme, which for years was the gold standard of Shopify themes. Thanks again to the support heroes for sponsoring this episode. Please like, subscribe and share wherever you're tuned in, and make sure you check out some of our other episodes. Whether you're a store owner, developer, or have any involvement in managing a Shopify store, I promise you'll learn something from Anne. So let's get into the chat.
I wanted to start off talking about probably the trend I'm seeing most is all the heroes on the internet this week. They're saying how they've eliminated all the apps and integrations on their store. They're saving X dollars a month, and that X sometimes have a lot of zeros after it. And yeah, CEOs are then sharing it with their tech teams saying, wow, we should do this as well. We're probably both people that are, our livelihoods rely on people not buying into that. But I also think there's some serious concerns about that approach and where people are going to end up. So I'd love to just ask you, how you feel about that and how you're responding to that sort of feedback when you see it out in the ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, there's no doubt about it that AI has changed the landscape of what we do, of really what anyone does. I mean, I've been building things online since 2008, so I've seen lots of things come and go, but I still remember the first time I interacted with an LLM and the hairs on my arm stood up and I'm like, well, this is something a little bit different. But I would say overall, I think it'll change the way that, for example, product managers do their job, because then we're going to be able to spin up MVPs really quickly and show proof of concepts, which I think is amazing. But what I worry about is the technical debt in the long term and actually maintaining these different custom built technologies because one of the things that AI is not so great at is it can usually come up with like, okay, here's a really basic thing that it does XYZ, but it's then we all know that refactoring code can be quite the challenge. So it's like, how do you take what already exists and then build onto it in a way that is intelligent and also maintainable? Fun story. I don't know if you've heard that the review process for Shopify apps has increased tremendously. And a lot of people are talking about how that's probably due to a lot of just vibe coded apps that are being released into the App Store.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that. And yeah, I think it's probably good there's the bit of delay there, because I think a lot of those people will lose interest and run away. But
yeah. It's true.
Before they even get published. But yeah, I guess that flows on to ask, like, I guess with an app like Design Packs, I can imagine it is probably quite easy for people to pull together a few sections, spin it up as something that can be an app and rip off what you do. So how does it stay relevant to customers in this changing world?
Yeah, I mean, we first launched in the App Store in 2021, which seems a lifetime ago. And when we launched, the concept of sections everywhere didn't actually exist. So if you remember a time when there was the drag and drop sections they were only on the homepage. That's it. They weren't anywhere else. And so when we first introduced design packs, people were like, well, can we use them on other pages? And we'd have to hard code them and this. So when Sections Everywhere was released, it was amazing for us because all of a sudden you could use it everywhere. But at the same time, this idea that, we had about, modular sections, it suddenly other people thought, oh yeah, that's something that has legs. And so we saw a huge amount of people just, coming up when creating like just section after section after section after section. So one of the things that we have always tried to do is we're not just a section factory. Like we're not just pumping out like, you want a section that looks like this? Here you go. We want a section that looks like this. We really I'm a big like content management system nerd. And so I like to think about it holistically and how it's going to affect your entire store. How is it going to fit in with your existing theme? So that's one of the things that we've tried to do is since 2021, just evolve and see how the changes have been made, adding in support for metafield detection, really leveraging nested blocks. The design packs of 2021 looks almost nothing like design packs of 2026, which I think is a really interesting thing and goes along with that idea of having to grow and scale and change as the technology evolves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've talked through the evolution a little bit, and I've been through a lot of those phases myself and wondered how we're going to adapt to sections everywhere and more later blocks and metafields and all of that sort of stuff. So I'd love to understand where where the tipping point is, I guess, for people to use a page builder such as what you have in this day and age. Like Horizon Theme allows you to build so much natively, but I've again, just like with AI, I've also seen that turn into Frankensteins, where just because you can build 50 blocks in a section, that doesn't mean you should. And I think I saw that limit got extended this week to 250 or something like that, but they're the kind of limit extensions that I prefer to ignore because I think they just create headaches. But yeah, but back to the question, where do you sort of see that threshold for where people start to engage with design packs?
Yeah, so we find that someone who's going to use something like design packs versus just spinning up an AI generated section is someone who does want that level of control and cohesion, like design cohesion across their entire store and making it match their existing store. Like, it's for someone that is concerned about their entire brand and that brand experience versus like, oh, we need, to throw in a comparison chart and we don't really care if it matches or if it looks like anything. We're just going to plunk it in there. The AI generator is going to spin it up. It's not going to be very flexible. You kind of get what you get. And if you try to change anything, then it creates a brand new version of that comparison chart. We like to say that we're actually like growing with the merchants. But I don't have an issue with the AI generator. I think it does have its limitations, but I like what Shopify is doing with Sidekick, for example. I like how they're building in AI capabilities because I think as someone who has been so heavily involved in content management system for so many years, we are seeing like a shift where people are expecting to be able to interact with building their site in a way that is a lot more, they can just tell something what they want it to look like, and they have that expectation as opposed to having to go in and change all different settings and that kind of thing. So we are definitely seeing that shift. But design packs for sure is for people that are serious about building their actual brand and keeping that consistency.
Yeah, awesome. No, I think that's it. It's different for everyone. I know it's not a one size fits all, and it's really interesting that way that people are evolving their way they're interacting with their CMS and what they're expecting from their CMS. And so I can imagine it's a big consideration for you. Like, do you let people build pages with a chatbot? Do you offer it via an MCP? Do you just provide a white glove service? So where are you at in that part of the journey for you? Is that sort of what's next?
Yeah, so it's something we're talking about internally for sure. I think one thing that does sort of differentiate us from other types of page builders or just AI generators and that kind of thing is that myself and my co-founder, are so deeply embedded in themes, and we've been working on themes for years and years and years. And so our level of service, we don't have any customer support. We answer all of the emails ourselves. And so it's almost like having like an outsourced developer that you can talk to. Like I've had conversations with merchants where it'll be something completely unrelated to the theme editor, just helping them set up Metafields or what have you. So I think that sort of differentiates us a little bit. Overall, like it's definitely people's expectations of what they can do with their themes is so much higher than it used to be years ago.
Yeah, and that service layer as well. Like I saw someone dropping the acronym of reversing SaaS to be service as a software the other day, and because the level of service you need to provide. Yeah, so I think it's quite interesting, that part of it as well, and you must really have a challenge there if you have someone submit a support ticket and want something a little bit different. How do you manage that yourself to not be like, oh, I can probably just build that for you, but if you build that for everyone, you would end up with an absolute mess of a product. How do you balance that?
Yes, product management is definitely one of those things that we have to be careful on, because it is incredibly easy with Shopify apps because you're talking to the merchants directly so frequently that oftentimes they'll come in, especially when you're building sections, people be like, "Oh, I really want this." And to be honest, that's where we've sometimes gotten some of our best ideas for sections or features or settings. So, not knocking it. I would say that there are sometimes some things that are highly specific that we may not build it into the section, but we're happy to, again, with the benefit of AI, we're happy to create a help doc about how to integrate with another service or something like that. So I think that not only can we scale our development with AI, but we can also scale our customer service at the same time.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, that's it. That feedback is so valuable, and that's what helps build good product, isn't it? So that's great.
Yes.
And what I'd like to understand just a little bit about what the, like, people are obviously still installing your app, and you've got new people coming on board every day. What are the most common things people are looking for at the moment that you can't get or build using, say, a Horizon or an off-the-shelf theme?
Yeah, it's interesting because what we find is that what's becoming more and more popular, and we're building more of these out for 2026, is full templates. So rather than having just like an individual section that someone needs to know how to set up and change all the settings, we've found that used to be the approach when sections were very, very simple. But now the amount of layouts that you can have, like, for example, our rich text section, you can create so many different things with it because of the nested blocks, like, you know, the way that they're stacked and all this kind of thing. So what we've really been focusing on is creating different product templates, landing page templates, collection templates, blog templates, that kind of thing, that people can just install and then assign directly to a page and then fill out their own content, but they don't have to go in and, you know, set everything up themselves. So
Let's face it, you didn't start an e-commerce app to spend 4 hours a day answering support tickets. That's where the support heroes come in. They provide dedicated, highly trained agents who actually understand the Shopify ecosystem and, most importantly, your business. They plug right into your help desk, they learn your brand voice, and they turn your users into advocates and 5-star reviews. Stop acting as your own customer service rep and get your time back. Head over to thesupportheroes.com today.
Yeah, I guess the landing page model is changing as well, isn't it? Like, you've got, compared to, I guess you used to have pretty stock standard rule books for what makes a good SEO converting landing page, but now you're also appealing to ever decreasing attention spans, plus having the rich content that AI tools are wanting to crawl, and they're including lots of rich content like video and AI generated stuff. So what actually, is there a playbook for building a good landing page in 2026?
You know what? Honestly, it's not that different than what already exists. And I think the issue is a lot of people aren't actually following the current suggestions that are already out there in terms of making sure that you have social proof, user-generated content, FAQs, make sure your JSON LD, like your schema is set up properly, actual content on the page. I think that, you know, especially with all of the conversation, we're like, ooh, like, you know, what's it going to crawl and what's it going to find, this kind of thing. I review, if I look at some people's sites, I'm like, just have more description on your product page, like put some things in tables, add some FAQs. Like, it is not, you know, you're not competing with the huge brands of the world. You just want to be able to make sure that if you have targeted ads or if you have word of mouth, that when people land on your site, you're not putting up more barriers versus just answering questions and making sure that they don't have any objections to add things to the cart. There's so many small sites that I see that with just a small amount of adding in more content, using some sections here and there could be incredible. So I would say that I would still look at those landing page blueprints and actually follow them and execute them. That's obviously probably not advice for some large brands that are, you know, multi-million, that are putting really targeted ads. Those have to be a lot more specific in terms of, like, you know, who is that specific buyer that they're targeting, speak to them, you know, maybe do some A/B testing, that kind of thing. But for the general majority of sites that I see, they really could benefit with just basic improvements on the landing page.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a boring answer, but that's what we all need to remember every day, isn't it? The basics of building a good website and good content are actually still the same. And if people can read it and understand it quickly, then so can everything else that's crawling it. So yeah, I think like I look even at like product data now and how all the guides around UCP and stuff like that, they actually, yeah, they're just encouraging you to have product data that just makes sense and have
Yep.
titles that explain what it does, a description that explains it in a little bit more detail and not in vague, cloudy, fluffy terms. And I think your wisdom there is very very spot on. And yeah, I think we all need to remind ourselves of that every day when there's flashy new stuff that you can build. And look, I wanted to change topic a little bit because you obviously design packs is in the App Store. A lot of people use it, and also a lot of people will be using other apps with it as well. So I know you've got quite a lot of integrations and stuff like that. Yeah, what are sort of what are the apps that are most being utilized by people and working that you see work really well with design packs and help to achieve that goal of just having really great content and landing pages and everything?
Yeah, one thing that surprised me actually so I previously worked as a theme developer and then I moved over to working in apps. And one of the things that surprised me when talking to other app developers is there is a strong focus more on being like a full stack backend developer versus front end and design. And so what we've run into with a lot of integrations and partnerships that we've had with other apps is that they will have incredible functionality, but are often limited by the app embed block because of the liquid constraints that are around that. So what we found is that we fit a really good in-between role where we can provide that level of settings and ability to change the design and make that app look really custom built and integrated for that store in a way that the app wouldn't really be able to do, or if they did, it would be like complicated UX directly in the app. Having an integration with design packs allows it to live directly in the theme editor, and so merchants are used to editing things in there. All the settings look the same and that kind of thing. So we can leverage the power of the app, bundle builder, wish list, anything like that, but still have the control over the look and feel in the theme editor.
Yeah, cool. So what makes what elements of an app make it easy to integrate with design packs? Like I can imagine data stored in Metafields would be an obvious one.
Yes, that is the number one. That is the number one. Being able to access things in Metafields. Yeah, ours are good as well, but sometimes there's just that bit of a delay because we're having to make a call. Whereas if they're directly in Metafields, that is amazing to be able to leverage. Everyone should be using all the Metafields.
Cool. I answered the question myself. So that's good. And look, I know you also you've come from a theme development background. You've now emerged across to being an app developer, but I believe you also do some. You still do some critique of shops as well through your shop critique. So you're looking at stores every day as part of that. I'd love to hear a little bit about sort of what sort of trends you're seeing in sites, not necessarily using design packs and the things that people need to be doing to create better front end experiences, because I'm sure you see a lot of different things there.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that a lot of people oftentimes interestingly think that they're adding to their site so that they can leverage data oftentimes actually ends up hurting their conversion. So my new pet peeve actually is the immediate pop-up offering 10% off. It is ubiquitous, it seems, across smaller sites where there's no delay. It just comes up immediately. It blocks the experience scrolling, especially on mobile, and you're only offering them 10% off. And there's usually sort of like sign up for a newsletter for details, but they never actually leverage the newsletter. Nothing ever gets sent out. So it's this odd, I don't know. I don't love that experience. Or that's one of my pet peeves that I have. The other thing that I think is a really easy fix for people is to just spend more time on your product page and your collection page on your phone. Like go in, see what the experience is like, and also just ask other people. A lot of people, I think, especially if you're really passionate about maybe the product that you're selling or your store, or maybe you're running a brick and mortar, your online experience of your brand, it may not be top of mind. You may not have, like a full e-commerce manager that's managing it, or even if you do, they're probably busy with other things, running promotions, etc. So I think doing your own self-audit at least once a quarter, where you're asking friends, family, etc., whoever, to just go in on the site, add a product to the cart, look and see if information is there. It sounds so incredibly basic and easy, but it's something everyone should be doing, including app developers. Honestly, that is something. If you're an app developer and you haven't looked at your demo site, your marketing site, or your app listing in a while, go back and look at it and see where it can be improved.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it. We all. I think the external support and feedback is most important there, isn't it? Because anyone who is, if you're writing your own material for your content, you obviously care a lot more about it than the average person's going to. And you have a lot more stuff that you'd be flagging as high priority content than someone who's coming to look at it for the first time is.
And it's hard. It's a hard exercise to do. And I think that's a reason why people avoid it, because you're going to get feedback that you may not necessarily want to hear, and it's going to add maybe tasks to your plate, and you're already busy and you're already stressed. But you have to hear that feedback, because otherwise, if you're just sort of developing in a vacuum and you're selling your product in a little bubble, that's not how the real world operates. So you have to listen to that feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to go back to something you touched on before. I think the welcome 10 discount, as I always call it, you say that's a pretty lazy, it's a stale and lazy way of marketing, I think, these days. And I think most would have fairly diminishing returns from it. What are you seeing that's actually better than that? What should people be doing instead?
I mean, honestly, just not a spinning wheel. I'm not suggesting that, but those little animated graphics that pop out.
I'm waiting for someone to suggest the spinning wheel. In fact, I'd like to get the spinning wheel on this show at some point.
I would love, actually, I am not a marketer, and I am not, in terms of the audits that I generally do, it is about the user experience, but it's not necessarily like CRO per se. Yeah. It's more about the overall experience. I would find it fascinating. Imagine if you had a marketing expert come on and they said, actually, the wheel leads to more conversions. Everyone should have a wheel. And maybe I'm wrong about the 10% discount, but I just find that between that and any type of GDPR, cookie banners and that kind of thing, it's just an overwhelming experience. And at the end of the day, the point of an e-commerce site is for people to purchase something. So any barriers that are going to stand in the way of that, I think your time is much better spent on your product page, adding things like, reviews right near the add to cart button, value icons, making sure that people have, how long is this going to take to ship? Basic questions like that often aren't answered and don't give people a sense of security when purchasing. Focus on that, not your, we're going to sign up for a newsletter. Or if you do really want to get people on your newsletter list, at least use it and send out, newsletters to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Very wise again. So there's a good fact sheet coming out of this episode, I think. And we'll wrap up in a second. I'm gonna finish off with it's almost, when I wrote this question, it almost sounded like a job interview question. But where do you see Shopify theme development? I'm not going to say in 5 years' time. That would be too job interviewy. What does the next 6, 12, 18 months look like in Shopify theme development?
Yeah, it has. I mean, I'm going to sound like I'm repeating myself because it has just changed so much. I started doing theme development in 2016, and I remember the days of when in the theme store to sell a theme, it's still a one-time cost, but the one-time cost, you could not charge more than $180 for a theme. That was the max amount. And so if you think about it, people that purchased a theme in 2016 for $180, they have managed to have completely mandatory updates from Shopify up for 10 years. And they only had to, where else are you going to find that in any type of technology like SaaS? It's unheard of. So I don't know what's going to happen in the theme store specifically, but I think personally what we're really focusing on at Design Packs in terms of themes and people building their stores is I believe in Liquid. I believe in, again, I love a content management system. I love giving people control over their site and not having to make it too complicated, but also giving them the ability to change things and have it look in a certain way. And I'm a really big proponent of modularity. So the idea being it's sort of like a combination of, we went to microservices versus the monolith kind of thing. I'm more on the microservices where a section can move from one theme to the other. But I think, we came out with cascading style sheets for a reason. So I think there should still be the idea of global styles, that a section can inherit everything. And so we're rolling out a big design system. And so the idea being that you don't need to go in and change like the button color in every single section. It'll just control the overall style, look and feel, but you'll still be able to move that very easily from theme to theme and from page to page.
Awesome. And look, I think I couldn't think of anyone better to talk to today when it comes to, I guess, experience across front-end development, building themes, building apps. You've really experienced it all and have shared so much with us today. So, Anne, thanks so much for joining us. And I hope everyone listening gets as much out of this chat as I have. And if you are still listening, make sure you hit the subscribe, like buttons and all that sort of stuff. And share it with all your friends. So thank you so much, Anne, and we'll be back with another episode of the Shopify App Show very soon.